they used to have the tea parties, the tea parties. Everyone was just drinking opium tea, in the probably getting up to 100 years ago now when they had prohibition in America.
Yeah,
there was alcohol was banned, but they were all having tea, and there was poppies in the tea.
Yeah, exactly.
They were cutting down apple trees because people could make cider from the apple trees, but everyone was just growing poppies, getting off their heads in a slightly different way.
Crazy, yeah. Things change, man. Like I see that weed is kind of getting a new upwind now. Like it's certainly like getting legalized in a lot more states in the US, and I think there are a lot of benefits to it, like not just from like smoking it, but in industrial level. Like there's so many things that can be made out of the plant itself. Hemp as well. And I think there's just another industry that's going to like explode again, because it used to be everywhere, I think that the first law that was ever passed in regards to hemp was that it was mandatory to plant it next to cornfields, because it helps you get rid of the vermin. In the soil, it helps the other roots grow larger, because it dies off, and then it becomes
it's a nitrogen fixer or something like that.
Yes, and then other roots get more oxygen and other stuff from the ground a lot better and easier. And so the corn grows better because of hemp growing next to it, right? So the first law ever passed was like mandatory, you have to do it, and the leaves are kind of bigger, so it provides shade for the corn, so it doesn't get burned from the sun. A lot of stuff like that you like wouldn't think of, right? Because you just plant like either just corn or just cabbage or
just
individually. But I think that agriculture used to be more like mixed together, when one thing it kind of creates a small biosphere, right? Where one thing feeds off the other, these leaves fall to the ground and they feed this and this way,
it's good, more biodiversity kind of thing.
Definitely.
So it's interesting the way things have changed, alcohol was illegal back then, and poppies you could grow them, weed you could grow them, and now 90 years later it's almost the complete opposite. But maybe it's changing again with the decriminalization of weed in a lot of the states, and even psychedelics are kind of coming back in as well. John Hopkins have got some really good studies that people in several places are using microdosing of acid or LSD or mushrooms for alcoholics, or for people with anxiety and depression and stuff like that. So I think that's going to come in slowly as well, maybe 10 years down the line.
I mentioned before we started the podcast, there's this really big podcaster called Tim Ferriss. He's one of the like old school guys. That's kind of one of the first ones that started like a full-time podcast, right? He wrote a book, got famous and all of that, and he was experimenting a lot with drugs and experimenting on himself a lot. Like he wanted to be best at Latin dances, and then he just did that for like 6 months straight. He was just dancing, just like you with running, right? And then he got into something else. Like he got into Muay Thai or one of the like martial arts, and went into a country where they were like a little bit shorter than him. So he would do like lose a lot of weight and then gain it back real fast. So he would be basically a weight category above the other guys, right? And he would like be first on a martial arts tournament. He was crazy and stuff like that, but he likes experimenting on himself. And right now he's looking a lot into research just like that, where people are trying out microdosing, and I think it's LSD for PTSD, like people that went to the war or army or something like that and had like really severe trauma, where they're like in a really bad state. And the research so far is like really, really cool. He says that it's helping a lot in a way where you don't have to go for therapy for like 10, 20 years, to get like a few % of an improvement, but where it's like pushing it really good, in a good direction.
Have you read, Michael Pollan? That's a really good book as well. Michael Pollan, How to Change Your Mind.
Okay.
He talks a lot about it. And I suppose how they were doing a lot of these psychological studies back in the 60s until again it all got pushed on the ground kind of thing. But that's really interesting about the LSD, and he'll talk about the studies that they've been doing. Michael Pollan, he's a botanist. He's written a couple of very good books about diet and stuff as well. Well respected. So he brought out this book, How to Change Your Mind, probably about 4 years ago now, and he'd never done any psychedelics, and he kind of delves into like everything from peyote to the cambo to all the psychedelics, ayahuasca, and talks about his experience on it, but like from a psychological point of view as well. definitely move it up your list of books to read.
All right, cool. Yeah, I have a bit like people keep recommending it, but I tend to listen to audiobooks more than sit down and read them. I was more the auditory type always. That's why I like chats, like talking, listening to music, listening to podcasts, stuff like that, rather than sitting down and reading. My mom was a creation teacher, and she was always like, "You have to read," and it always felt like so boring to me. I always felt like listening more, and I would rather go to a conference and sit down for 3 days and listen to someone than read for like 3 or 4 hours.
We're all different.
Yeah, definitely. But I'll do put it on my to listen list. Yeah. You mentioned ayahuasca. There are also a lot of research coming out with that as well. A lot of people have been mentioning it on podcasts and around the world. Interestingly, also mentioned Joe Rogan there. He also says that a lot of people report the same thing. Like usually when people do drugs, everybody kind of has their own kind of experience and goes into, like something different, right?
Yeah.
But with this, people kind of like go into the same room and like see the same thing. Like an entity walks into the room and like tells them about, like nature and like helps them out. And they say like, oh, it's the spirit of the world, and it gave us some ideas. And a lot of people say that after they do it, like a lot of, like things fall in place for them. So I don't know, man, it sounds good, but you like have to go to a shaman somewhere in the forest or I don't know, like it's not like you can buy it in the local drugstore,
No, yeah. South America is the home of it. Yeah.
Hey, thanks for watching this video. If you want to see the full version, go to the Uncle Gold Podcast YouTube channel or watch the next clip.